Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to tackle a genuinely fascinating concept, the unreachable sports record. You know the ones, those legendary benchmarks that feel like they're permanently etched in stone, completely defying generation after generation of athletes who try to break them. But what exactly happens when a player comes along whose very existence seems to shatter the mathematical models we use to measure greatness? Well, today, we're tracing the entirely unprecedented and, frankly, mathematically absurd career of Erling Haaland. We're going to dive straight into the data to understand why we aren't just witnessing a great player right now, but a true statistical anomaly in the history of the sport.
So, to really grasp the sheer scale of what we're looking at, we have to start by setting a historical baseline for football greatness. And to do that, we need to ask a very specific question. Who is the most efficient striker in Premier League history? Now notice I said efficient, not just the guy with the most total volume of goals. We want to figure out who finds the back of the net most reliably, game in and game out. Setting this baseline is absolutely crucial because it gives us the context we need to appreciate the sheer magnitude of the data we're about to explore.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's a comparison that should honestly make any football fan do a double take. We have what we can call normal greatness, beautifully represented by Arsenal legend Thierry Henry, boasting an incredible 0.6783 goals per game ratio. For decades, that number has literally been the gold standard for lethal finishing. But then we have the anomaly, Erling Haaland, sitting at an astronomical 0.909 goals per game. The gap between these two numbers is just visually jarring. It's not some incremental improvement, it is a massive leap into an entirely different stratosphere of offensive output. Just to make sure our comparison is completely airtight, we're pulling our dataset from Gary James's Football Archive, and we are strictly looking at the Premier League 100-goal club. This parameter is vital for us. We aren't looking at players who just caught fire for a single hot streak or one great season. We're only analyzing the absolute elite group of players who have proven their sustained quality by netting 100 or more total goals in England's top flight. This filters out all the noise and leaves us with nothing but the absolute heavyweights of the sport. And this brilliantly illustrates just how far ahead of the pack he truly is when we rank them all out. Look closely at the numbers for ranks 2 through 6. You've got Henry, Sergio Aguero at 0.6691, Harry Kane at 0.6656, Mo Salah, and Alan Shearer. All of these absolute legends are tightly bunched together in that 0.58 to 0.67 range. That tight little cluster, that is what the absolute peak of human athletic performance in this league has historically looked like. And then, standing entirely on an island of his own at rank 1, is Erling Haaland at 0.9009. He isn't just beating the all-time greats, he is outperforming them by a margin that statistically shouldn't even be possible in a modern, ultra-competitive league. To put a finer point on this level of efficiency, I want you to think about this number, 111. That is the exact number of appearances it took Erling Haaland to reach his 100 Premier League goals. Let that sink in for a second. Hitting a century of goals in just over 100 matches is a completely unprecedented pace for any top-flight striker. It perfectly highlights how his mind-blowing goals per game ratio translates into real-world, historical milestones just being shattered in record time.
Now, at this point, a healthy skeptic might be asking a very fair question. Is this just a club-level fluke? Like, is Haaland simply the beneficiary of playing in a totally dominant Manchester City system, surrounded by world-class playmakers serving him the ball? Well, to truly test if this guy is a historical anomaly, we have to transition the narrative over to the international stage. We need to see if this impossible math actually holds up when he swaps his club jersey for his national team kit. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of context is the year 1937. That's the year a player named Jürgen Juve set the Norwegian national team's all-time goal-scoring record with 33 goals. Think about how much the game of football has evolved since the 1930s. Generations of incredibly talented Norwegian strikers have come and gone, yet that 33-goal benchmark stood completely untouched, anchoring the record books for an astonishing 87 years. It wasn't just a record, it was a full-blown institution. And then Haaland arrived. Follow this timeline with me because it's pretty wild. In September 2019, he makes his debut against Malta. A year later, in 2020, he scores his first international goal against Austria. Fast forward to October 2024, in a Nations League match against Slovenia, he scores a brace to hit 34 goals, finally breaking Jürgen Juve's 87-year-old record. And remember, he was only 24 years old when he did that. But he certainly didn't stop there. By July of 2026, he's finding the net against Brazil at the World Cup, pushing his total to an incredible 62 international goals. It is a relentlessly rapid ascent. So the crucial point is this: 62 goals in just 54 international appearances as of July 2026. This definitively answers our earlier question. It's not a club-level fluke. Out there on the international stage, his massive volume perfectly matches his unbelievable efficiency, averaging more than a goal per game for Norway. Actually, he's scoring at a mathematically faster pace for his country than he is in the Premier League. So much for the system player theory, right? When we break down his most productive years for Norway, the sheer pace is staggering. In 2022, he scored 9 goals. In 2024, he bumped that up to 11. But look closely at 2025. In that single calendar year, he scored a remarkable 17 international goals. And what makes that even crazier is that he scored those 17 goals in just 9 games, averaging almost 2 goals every single time he stepped on the pitch for his country over an entire year. That is simply unheard of. A massive driver of that ridiculous 2025 tally and his overall efficiency in general is his knack for multiple goal games. Just look at this list of his 6 international hat-tricks: Romania in 2020, Gibraltar in 2021, Kosovo and Kazakhstan in 2024, Israel in 2025. And nestled right in there is a World Cup qualifier against Moldova in September 2025, where he didn't just score 3, he didn't just score 4, he scored 5 goals in an 11-1 victory. It's a relentless, rapid-fire scoring pace that completely overwhelms opposition defenses. As a quick aside, when you dig into the data, you kind of have to feel a little bit sorry for one team in particular. With those 5 goals in 2025, plus another one earlier in the year, Moldova holds the very unfortunate title of being Haaland's absolute favorite international opponent, having conceded a total of 6 goals to him so far. Let's move on and see how this builds across different environments. A critic might argue, hey, international stats can be padded in meaningless friendlies, but the data completely proves otherwise. Out of his 62 goals, only 9 came in friendlies. He delivers heavily when the stakes are at their absolute highest: 21 goals in World Cup qualifiers, 19 in the highly competitive Nations League, 6 in Euro qualifiers, and 7 on the biggest stage of them all, the FIFA World Cup. The vast majority of his damage is done in competitive, high-pressure tournaments. Which brings us to a rather awe-inspiring conclusion. When we zoom out and look at all this data, from a .9009 Premier League ratio to shattering an 87-year-old national record at age 24 and reaching 62 goals in 54 caps by 2026, we are forced to entirely recalibrate our understanding of the sport. With all these historical records already in pieces behind him, where does the ceiling of football greatness truly lie? Based on his current trajectory, Erling Haaland is not just chasing history, he is completely rewriting the boundaries of human athletic achievement. And the most fascinating part of all this, we are watching it happen right now. Every time you tune in to watch him play, remember, you aren't just watching a football match, you're watching a mathematical anomaly unfold in real time.